Welcome to the SensorDB tutorials. I'm Doug Palmer and I'll be providing an introduction to the Java API for SensorDB. The tools I'll be using are Git, Maven and Eclipse. The code for the API is stored on GitHub. It's a Maven project, which means that you can build it and then use it as a dependency in other Maven projects, and I'll be using Eclipse as my IDE. The first thing we need to do is get the source code from GitHub. Do that by making a git clone, providing suitable passwords, of course, because this is a private repository. This will then download it and place it into a directory called SensorDB Java API. Once you've done that, you need to ask Maven to install the code. What that does is it first compiles it and builds it, and then runs a whole series of tests. This will be somewhat boring. Once it's finished, it will then place it in your local repository, ready for use. The next thing you need to do, and we've now moved to Eclipse, is actually import the API in. You can do this by simply importing it as a Maven project, selecting the appropriate area and then pulling it in, and as you can see, it's appeared in the package explorer. If you look, you'll see all the various pieces of code. The next thing we need to do is create a new Maven project, which there you just select Maven. You can do without an artifact. What you then need to do is put in a group ID and an artifact ID for the project that you're working on. Once you've done that, you'll want to add the API as a dependency. To do that, you put in the group ID, which is au.soro.cmar, and then the artifact ID, which is SensorDB-API, version 0.1.1-snapshot. This may change as time goes on. Now what you can see is you'll see a list of Maven dependencies, including all the things that SensorDB API relies upon. If you have a look at the Maven build file, you'll see the dependencies listed, and also in the text you can see the dependency already there. So I've skipped on a little bit, and what I've done is I've created a package already and a demo file for that package. I've filled it out a little bit, and as you can see, what I've already done is I've imported the various classes needed from the API, and as you can see, the package is au.soro.cmar.weru. Down the bottom, I already have a number of variables already defined, which I'll use as we go on. The parameters are generally as typed as we can make them, so rather than using strings for URLs, you actually use a URL. Similarly for dates, this is so that the API can check things properly at compile time. The from and the to dates, just made them up. From date is a day before the to date. The API at the moment requires a from and a to date when you are querying data for readings and data, and that's because you need to be able to get on with it. To create a connection, what you do is you go to the factory instance and then ask it to create an appropriate connection. You provide the URL of the server, a user ID, and either null if you only want to view the publicly available experiments, or instead what you can do is if you put a password in, then you'll be able to log in and get anything. Once you've got the connection, you'll be able to get the experiments that the user has, and to do that you just use the get experiment call on the connection. The experiment name is the same as you would see on the website. Once you have an experiment, you can get a node. And once you have a node, you can then get a stream. You can use the streams to access time series data. Now, there are two sorts of time series data. Raw data is raw observations. It comes with a from and a to date, and what you get back is an object called a time series with a particular type of observation within that time series. The time series is iterable, so you can simply iterate through the observations just on the time series itself and do whatever you need to. Observations are simply timestamp value pairs. Oops. Alternatively, if you want to get summary data, what you do is that you can use the get summary data call. Again, this has a from and a to date. And an aggregation level. And what you get back is summary data instead in the time series. Again, this can be iterated. This is just a sample of using the API to retrieve some data. There are, of course, other API calls for creating nodes, experiments, streams, accessing metadata, and performing various other activities. Once you've finished, if you want to, you can log out.